I recently gathered 7 of the best players from all around the world and faced them in a best of 6 matches. This included number 1 in the Asia leaderboards, number 1 in Europe leaderboards, number 1 on the NA leaderboards, and even the winner of the most recent stacked tournament, Chinese player Huya Goa. You're not gonna want to miss all of these high IQ plays because trust me, there are a lot of them. I'll be going over how the winner of each lobby was able to take down the victory so you and I can both learn how these players managed to win in the best lobby ever created. First, we'll be taking a look at Alutemu's game, who went Snake Eyes, one of the best heroes in the game currently because of its insane power level potential. Unluckily, he rolled a 1 early game, which is already a bad sign. He levels turn 2 without hero powering, which makes sense because you wouldn't really be too happy with any dice roll here as you don't want to buy trash. He is happy to roll a 6 the following turn and he finds himself with an early Deep Blue Crooner. Now this is definitely not enough to commit to the Deep Blue Zesty comp, but the comp is actually still pretty good, so you want to enable it by buying the Deep Blue. On turn 6, he buys another Deep Blue, which makes it okay to commit to the comp if he didn't find anything better. He was still open to playing other things, as we can see with the Brand and the Record Smuggler pickup, but after rolling into the Shell Mental turn 9, the comp is now too good to skip. Shell Mental turning Deep Blue stats into permanent stats is an insanely powerful combination and definitely the best way to play the build. Turn 10 we see him use the Oozling spell to turn the Deep Blue temporary stats to permanently doubling his stats even, super insane. And then turn 11 we see him turning the Deep Blue stats into permanent stats via Heedless Hoarder. Just high IQ plays all around. Definitely opening up my eyes to the strength of this build. In the end, he was able to outscale even an APM Gallywix to take home the very first victory. Well played. The second game, we're going to watch the other Japanese player in the tournament, who's Matsuri, currently rank 1 on the Asia Pacific server. He picked Galewing and went 3-on-3, which is a pretty standard opener. And then he rolled into doubled Mangled Bandit with a Ferrex, definitely enabling Quobors here. But remember, it's still impossible to commit to Quobors without the Prickly Piper, and you can see 2 turns later he triples a Ferrex into a Scrap Scraper, which is a much more appealing option than going Quobors here. Mechs are such a good try right now that I think even with just a turn 6 Scrap Scraper, it's just enough to commit mechs from this position. Playing the Magnetic on its own is a great idea because that makes it so that it can triple, but unfortunately his turn 6 matchup was kind of toxic, so he already found himself at 9 HP on turn 6, something that you just wouldn't likely witness on ladder. Turn 8 he discovers a utility drone from his hero power, and then finds another one which is great for going the mech direction that he wants, and then triples the utility drone that same turn. That is a comeback. And next turn he finds a 4th utility drone and scales a bit with the charging Serena to stabilize. Typically you'd scale Deflectos in this spot, but Ferrex is a pretty nice replacement because he never rolled into Deflecto. And with this utility drone mech setup, he was just able to cruise to a first. Scrap Scraper OP. The third game was won by the Chinese player Huya Goa, but unfortunately I'm not able to download his perspective on this game, but he still won with a pretty cool board.
It's Brand, Trigger, Shell Whister type stuff that's been going on here.
Did you guys like that buff shop sequence at the end with the Shell Mental spells and the Consume Demon spell? Just perfect sequence. These guys are so freaking good. At the end of the third game, the lowest point total was 9 points and the highest point total was 12, which just further goes to show how good everyone is, how close everyone's skill level is to each other. The tournament was crazy intense. Yes, I know I haven't won a lobby yet, but hey, I'm still generating consistent points, okay? Now let's get into the fourth game, where I had this board on turn 7. Yep, I'm not joking. I'm tier 6, turn 7, with a large cleave at 28 HP. But I'm not actually who we're gonna watch for game 4. We're gonna take a look at XQN's perspective, current EU's best player. XQN picked Hooktusk in an economy lobby and had double Akorotron tier 4 on turn 5 already, just printing money from the get-go. Turn 6 he did a really cool Reef Explorer play where he triggered the Reef Explorer with all tribes on the board, forcing the game to give him Chimera. That's how he got 2 Chimeras and $1 million on just turn 6. XQN then lost to my ridiculous turn 7 board, but unfazed he leveled to 6 anyways, and then popped off. He commits to the APM pivot, finds 2 Tethises, triples into Greymane for scaling, and that's pretty much infinity. You can observe that he just keeps the Tavern Tempest, and this is a very common move at high levels because there are so many great trigger Battlecry effects in the game right now that you can use if you keep the Tavern Tempest. In the end, he closed out the game versus a Galliwix because he kind of just stole all the scaling cards from the Galliwix honestly, which were Greymane and Rock. Keep in mind, if it weren't for the server ping, his board would be even bigger as if it weren't big enough. Nicely done by XQN. By this point, we saw a variety of comps win. Nagas, Mechs, Menagerie, and Elementals. Let's see what's in store for us the next 2 games. The 5th game we're going to spectate is from Beterbabbit, current rank 1 on the NA leaderboard, coming back after a long break. He had a turn 6 double false implicator slimy Fellblood opener, which means he can easily commit to demons, but also that comp isn't the greatest in the meta right now, so he has the option to pivot to something better if he wants. On turn 8, he rolls into 2 Scrapscraper, which means, you guessed it, we might be going mechs. Turn 10, he has already a really good mech board and a random Tethys. Oh wait, plot twist. He sells both the Scrapscrapers the next turn and commits to Pirates after he rolls to a Greymane. This is just an example of trying to play the highest cap board as possible, which most of the time means going infinite. Finally, turn 15, he rolls into the Brand, the final missing piece of the comp, and can start to go crazy. But this still isn't an easy win for Beater because everyone in the final 3 is actually pretty strong. He was flipping with Huya Goa's Elemental comp with Cultist Chimera, and then there was me with my 300 attack deflective bots. Hey, I was pretty strong, okay? Give me some credit. Anyways, I ended up in 3rd while Beterbabbit was able to outscale Huya Goa and take home the victory. Both boards were insanely strong and would blow out a typical lobby though. And on to the final game, where we spectate our 6th and final person, Dapido. Dapido is a Taiwanese player that had the most Lobby Legends appearances out of anybody when that was still a thing, and now he's going to bring his tournament skills to the final lobby on Galliwix. Everyone knows the most important thing on Galliwix is to make sure your mid game is as stable as possible and you save HP, because late game you will inevitably become infinite. And Dapido did a really cool Naga Helis Hoarder play that definitely stabilized him in the mid game. And then he did it again the next turn, followed by hitting Magmalock, which turns out to be pretty good on an econ hero. The very next turn he triples into a Brand, and I think we all know where this is going. Brand plus Galliwix pretty much always results in infinite money sooner or later, and this game was no exception. He ended up playing Greymane Brand comp for a pretty uncontested victory. No one else really even matched his board strength this game. The final scoreboard ended up being as follows, where Dapido and Huya Goa took 1st place and 2nd place, our 2 Chinese speaking streamers, followed by XQN and then yours truly. Okay, I know my best placement was a 3rd place guys, but believe it or not, I was the highest scorer into the last round, so I better not see any "this YouTuber is so washed" comments. Thank you guys so much for watching the entire video. Let me know in the comments whether you would like to watch another very high level tournament in the future, and maybe what improvements I can make as well. Hope you guys learned as much as I did. Take care.